What's going on everybody, and welcome to another video on Python 3 basics tutorial series. In the last video we covered the topic list, and in this video we are going to cover the topic of tuples and sets. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. Now to start with, let me just open my IDLE, and first I'm going to define a list because so that you'll be able to differentiate easily. So I'm going to define a list with name L and give it the elements 12, 34, 56 and 78. Now when I say L, it gives me this list. Now to define a tuple, I'm going to name the tuple T, and to define a tuple we are going to be using the curved brackets, and inside this we are going to put the same elements 56 and 78. Now when I say T, it gives me this. See, the basic difference which you can see is to define a tuple we are using curved brackets, and to define a list we are using these square brackets. But there's something more than that. See, tuples are immutable, which means tuples can't be, the elements can't be updated in tuples, which means if I say T of 0 and change it to, let's say, 23, so it will give me an error which says type error, tuple object does not support item assignment. So we cannot change any element in tuple, which means tuple is a fixed quantity, whereas in list we can update a value. Lists are mutable, and thus we use list more often. But see, you might be asking that why we use tuples if tuples have restrictions on it. See, the thing is, when we are working with tuples, since these values cannot be interchanged or these values cannot be changed, thus it becomes easier for the compiler to compile it, and it takes less time to compile a program when we are working with tuples. So if we are working on a big project, then we actually make sure that we are using tuples more than list, just to make the program easily compilable. Okay, moving on. To use the functions, we can use control space and it will give me a pop-up, and there are only two functions here, whereas in list, let me just say L dot control space, and in list there are all these functions: append, clear, copy, count, extend, insert, and many more. So since we cannot change any value, thus there are very limited functions in tuple. So the first function is count, which we are going to be using right now. Let's say I want the count of 24, so it will give me the number of times 34 has occurred in the tuple, which is 1. Now the second function was index. Now to use index, I'm going to write 78. Let's say see, index function is going to be used to return the index value of this element. So when I say enter, it gives me third position, which says which means 78 is at third position in this tuple. Okay, so this is it for tuples. Now let's move on to sets. Well, as you may have studied, sets do not have any, do not include any duplicate values, right? So when you define a set, and to define a set we use these curly brackets, and let's say define a set and put the elements like 1 1 1, now some 2 3 4 4 5. Cool. Now when I print s, it only gives me 1 2 3 4 5. It does not include any duplicate elements, so it actually eliminates all the duplicate elements, which is the basic property of any set. Now one more thing, when we are working with sets, we cannot use any index position because none of the elements have any index position. We see, this one is not at 0th position because it's just printing it at 0th position. But let's say when I write s dot add, which is one of the function which we can use with sets, s dot add qwe. Now when I say s, okay, so it added at the last position. Well, see, the thing is, in sets there are no positions. This it is just random order. We are not working with any position. So there are many functions which we cannot use. Let's say if I want s at one any element which is present at first position of set s, so it gives me an error because set object is not subscriptable, which means we cannot access any element using any index value. Alright, so what are all the functions available with set? Now for that I'm going to say control space, and it gives me this pop-up. See, we have add function which we just used before. We have clear, copy, difference update. We also have intersection function, intersection update. And this union function. Sets which, see, intersection and union, I think you might be knowing that, but let me just give you an overview. Okay, look at this image. For intersection function, we can say this shaded portion, this portion, and for the union function, we can say it will give me all the sets, all the elements which are present in both the functions. Intersection gives me all the elements which are present in both, and union gives me which are present either anyone, if that makes sense. Okay, anyways, cool. So this is set. Let me just give you an quick recap. So we first learned what the difference between L and T, which is lists and tuples. Also, one more thing, sets are way faster than tuples because they do not have any index value, thus they can be compiled very easily and very faster. So on a scale, we can say sets are the fastest, whereas lists are the slowest in compilation speed. Okay, that was it, right? Okay, for the recap, we learned the difference between lists and tuples. We learned that we cannot change any value in tuple. It is a fixed quantity. We use the functions, both the functions which are available for tuple, and we worked with set. Okay, let me just define another set here. P is equals to 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 8. Okay, so P is this and S is this. Now when we use the function union with P, it gives me a set which contains all the elements of both S and P, and it also eliminates the duplicate elements, which means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 QWE and 7, 8, 9 because 2 and 5 were already present in set S. Now to use intersection, I'm going to say P, so it gives me 2 and 5 because only 2 and 5 elements are present in both the sets. So these are the functions which comes with sets. These are not available with list, and these are some unique functions. So we can use these functions in a project or any program if you want. Anyways, so this is it for sets and tuples. I hope you like this video, and for the rest, you know the drill. Press the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.